So instead of dealing with all the glaring issues in California, like the homeless crisis or the fact that the fire hydrants did not have water, Gavin Newsom has decided to start a podcast so he can rebrand himself as this cool, moderate Democrat. Now, unfortunately for Gavin Newsom, I do not have amnesia. I remember when he shut down his own state and then went out to a Michelin star restaurant called French Laundry. This man is a snake oil salesman, and he and the rest of the Democratic elites hate you and me. In his first episode, he has Charlie Kirk on, who's the founder of Turning Point USA and is probably the best political organizer we have in the United States right now. Charlie Kirk is wicked smart. Now, it's clear to me what Gavin Newsom is doing. He knows the Democrats are in free fall with young men. Charlie has an audience of millions of young men, so why not have him on the podcast? Gavin Newsom needs Charlie Kirk way more than Charlie Kirk needs Gavin Newsom. In fact, Gavin Newsom is bringing nothing to the table in this interaction.
Gavin Newsom starts his new career as he is unexpectedly surrendering right now. And that could be a good thing and a bad thing. But first, ladies and gentlemen, let me know what you think about this. He launched his new career as a podcast because he feels that the left is doing so bad by not reaching out to the right that he invites Charlie Kirk, which is, again, one of the biggest political commentators right now and political advisors and political organizers in the country. That's undeniable. But he invited him on the show, and Charlie Kirk does not hold back. There's parts of here that really he's making literally Gavin Newsom surrender, and I'm going to show you exactly what I'm talking about. But what do you think this is all about? Starting a new career. California has fallen apart. This guy has done a terrible job in California. One thing about him that people do like is the fact that he's a charming guy, but overall, that's all he has. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think down below. What do you think about this? Do you think this is a good thing? Do you think this is a bad thing? But again, the biggest issues right now in California are the trans men and women, trans women. I don't even know the trans stuff. When I say trans stuff, you know what I'm talking about. In women's sports right now happening, there were a lot of violations during the COVID era that this guy did that Charlie Kirk is going to expose. But is Gavin Newsom actually going to admit the truth to his failures? Well, ladies and gentlemen, you'd be very surprised as to what just happened. I want to play this clip right here. This is the tone setter right here, ladies and gentlemen. And this has made a lot of liberals lose their minds over this. Take a listen.
It's like you right now should come out and be like, you know what? The young man who's about to win the state championship in the long jump in female sports,
right,
that shouldn't happen. You as the governor should step out and say no.
No, and I appreciate.
But like, would you do something like that? Would you say no men in female sports?
Well, I think it's an issue of fairness. I completely agree with you on that. So that's easy to call out, the unfairness of that.
I mean, that response alone is a lot better than what Democrats just did in Congress, which is they literally voted against the bill that will ban transgenders from competing in women's sports. But Hakeem Jeffries, Democratic Party leader, had a change. He hasn't even had a change of heart. He still feels the same way about the bill. And here's his response in criticism to Gavin Newsom. Take a listen.
I want to ask about California Governor Gavin Newsom's comments saying that Democrats were in the wrong for allowing transgender athletes to compete in female and girls sports. What is your response to that after Democrats had opposed the women and girls in sports?
I haven't seen his comments. What Democrats opposed was unleashing sexual predators on girls throughout the United States of America.
Again, ladies and gentlemen, that is your Democratic Party leader right there saying what? That is just wild. That's his response. But again, Charlie Kirk going after Gavin Newsom on this parent issue, on the trans kids issue, and boy, oh boy, does it take a turn, in my opinion, for the best. You got to see this clip right here because this has Democrats melting down. He's being confronted. Now, would you give credit to Gavin Newsom for going out and inviting somebody like Charlie Kirk to come over, knowing that it's going to cause his party to abandon him? And that's what's happening right now. There are articles being written about this interview as if it is the apocalypse, especially when Gavin Newsom is supposed to be the guy that runs in 2028. But again, I want you guys to really listen to this.
You signed a law where school districts can't even tell parents if their kids are trans.
Not true.
Okay,
Factually
then,
untrue.
okay, then.
No, they can. They just can't get fired for not doing that. And it wasn't just trans.
Fired for not.
The law was explicit, said you can't be fired for not snitching on a kid, not just for being trans, for being gay. And my point is, how in the hell
but should the parents know?
They have every.
But is telling parents snitching?
No,
or should be a penalty measure, whether it be termination or whatever, if a teacher withholds information from a parent. Because what you're saying is that there's no way to hold them accountable. So you're saying you're
accountable to what though?
Accountable
to two kids talking.
Hey, I want to transition, and the teacher accommodates and affirms it, and the parent doesn't even know. I have met parents like that in the state. I heard
Trump, and then they come back and they're again. There's so much extreme.
I will say, and we don't have to. We don't have to wrestle too much.
He's admitting it. They're crushed. They're cooked. Told you guys, they're so cooked. And him inviting Charlie Kirk can be seen as two ways. I see it as he's surrendering, waving in, wave it in. We got to stop this stuff. He still doesn't understand that withholding information from parents is just crazy, and you're going to keep losing on these topics. That is so far gone. It's crazy.
It's helpful to know because it is deeply unpopular, and I think that is an ascendant political force,
right?
That is not going away.
No, I appreciate, but I also appreciate you hold deeply unpopular beliefs.
Of course I do, but but
you're not running for office.
I'm not going to run for president.
Again, the friendly banter going back and forth, but I gotta say, man, Charlie Kirk absolutely, literally, absolutely cooked them. In fact, I want to show this next clip, man, which is a clip that made me really, Bill O'Reilly he's a legend, man. He's been around for a minute. Chris Cuomo and News Nation, and here he is giving a breakdown of what's happening to the Democratic Party. And I think this is one of the main reasons why Gavin Newsom is starting a new career in podcasting and inviting right-wing influencers and commentators and political figures. Here's why. I'm going to close out the video with this. Make sure to smash the like button. This is the best explanation as to the Democrats and why they're failing very badly. Enjoy this clip.
Donald Trump last night did what he wanted to do. Number one, he got on the record that his accomplishments in the first 6 weeks were fairly extraordinary, which is true, both good and bad. And number two, he taunted the Democratic Party into making a myriad of mistakes. I think the Democratic Party is on the verge of collapse. And I liken it to 1931, when Herbert Hoover and the Republican Party basically said to the very suffering American people in the Depression, we're not helping you. You got to do it on your own. It's all about self-reliance. We're not going to give you any safety nets. That led to 5 consecutive Democratic wins. 5. Not until Dwight Eisenhower, 20 years later, did the Republicans recover. I see the same scenario for the Democrats. So I wrote a message of the day on BillO'Reilly.com, which I know you read every morning, first thing. It said, hey, didn't the far left, the Elizabeth Warrens, used to be against war, Vietnam, they're against Iraq, Afghanistan, they didn't want to whack Soleimani, Biden didn't even want to get bin Laden. Well, it wasn't that their posture, but now, all of a sudden, they want to go in Ukraine and go and go and go and go. What happened? What happened was Trump hatred. And that's what the headline is of the speech last night. When you are hating someone, you lose all perspective. You lose all feeling. You're consumed. And I wrote a book that's going to be out in September called Confronting Evil. And these people who did all these terrible things, they all had one thing in common. They hated. They were just haters across the board. That's what you saw in that chamber last night.